I'm surprised you know where I live. I mean, three years.
There's no need for that.
Really good to see you.
For that.
Really good to see you. Yeah.
Good to see you.
Initially, you recognise it? It's changed a little bit.
It.
That plant here is my one contribution to the garden in terms of plants. A palm that I wanted something that reminded me of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
You know, and this does, and it's quite hardy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Quite hardy.
I love the orange pot. You know, it's a really kind of popping because everything else is quite calm and white and grey and
exactly.
I mean, the nice thing for me, having not been here for, what did you say it was?
3.5 years, Matthew, you haven't been here.
But it's great because obviously gardens need time.
Yeah.
That's the thing that, you know, they really need to work.
No, I agree.
And look, you know, it's fabulous for me to see it having had that time to develop and grow and fit into the space.
I've physically seen it grow every summer. Every year I get excited at the prospect of something sprouting up and something getting bigger and fuller. And I said to you, I don't want to see this brown fence, too much of this brown fence, and it's grown so quickly. And no, I love it. I'm 100% delighted. What do you think about the way it's come out?
You know, what I'm really impressed with is, you know, your brief to me was make the fence disappear, and I think it has largely disappeared.
It has.
You know, I use this repeat planting of Amelanchias, which are a great city tree because they don't mind London clay, they don't get too big, they flower. Obviously, the flowering's just finished, but presumably it looks fantastic.
It looks incredible. It does look incredible, especially when it's all over the garden, and it's not too. I mean, you know, my hydrangeas, for example, dominate. Yeah. You know, like, look at me.
Yeah.
And they
They're
dominate.
showy.
But these are there for a couple of weeks. They look amazing.
Yeah.
But the first thing that pops up with the tulips normally.
Yeah.
That's the first sign. But no, beautiful.
You know, I remember when I first came to see your garden, and it was lots of black decking, and it was lots of chippings, and there wasn't really a garden.
And there was so much decking.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a garden. There was no soil here. We put 15 tons of soil in here. I've actually walked along and I put my foot through it.
I remember that.
It was raised.
You disappeared through it.
We're on a massive slope here. We're on a hill, but they've somehow levelled it out. So I lived in Clerkenwell in a loft apartment. Well, you know, typical urban DJ loft apartment.
Cool dude, right?
2,000 square foot, basement, ground floor. The problem was, you know, I wanted to get away from that urban environment. And my God, did I do it at the right time?
Yeah.
5 years ago we moved here. And I found this massive rectangular garden. And while shopping for houses, looking for a home, I noticed how important a garden was to a home.
And this is a big garden by London standards.
It's a big garden by London standards. My producer at the time on my radio show, Dan Cocker, he always said, oh, I love gardening. He says, I do gardener's question time.
Yeah.
I said, oh, do you know a gardener? Indeed. And he gave me your number.
Yeah.
So I said, oh. He said, oh.
It's sounding really bargain basement now, Trevor. Thanks. You've really reduced.
Well, he said he used to be a musician. He's a musician type. You'll get on with him. He's a nice bloke. So I phoned you up and you said to me, yeah, I'll come and check you out. I'm just at Chelsea.
Every day at that time, I recall you calling me and telling me that there was another problem with the house and you had the builders around trying to fix something else.
That was my way of keeping my costs down.
No, was it?
But it was true. Yeah. And
there's a lot of rendering, I seem to remember.
There was a lot of rendering going on. Yeah. This place was like a builder's garden. And what I mean by that is there was a fish pond that was not good for the fish. It was underground.
I mean, it was like that shallow, wasn't it?
It was horrible. It was horrible, but the fish were hardy and they survived.
Lots of black decking and white gravel chippings.
White gravel chippings.
It was a tricky garden to live with. Yeah.
I'm walking along here and my foot, remember, went through. Yeah. I didn't even know it wasn't solid. There was a, what would you call it? There was a vacuum of nothingness.
Yeah, there was a void.
So it was a big job. But what I realised from you is that you said, look, you taught me something that I didn't realise about gardens. It's all about the design. I said, look, Matthew, I'm not an outdoor type. I want that area to be urban, practical. Yeah. I want us to somehow do something with the fish pond. Yeah. Because I want to keep the fish. I actually like fish, and I've never had fish, and I really wanted to do something. And but here I want it to be a garden this side. And you came up with a great design. I've got to be honest with you. My brief was, I want to be able to enjoy the garden from inside the house, which is very important. in winter I'm not going out there getting freezing. I just want to look at my garden.
Well, I remember you saying to me, I don't want to go outside when it's freezing cold and I don't like sitting in the sun. So I think, well, there must be a middle ground somewhere here.
But it's worked perfectly. This garden has grown in 3 years. But garden design is absolutely the key. It's because you'll make mistakes in your garden and they could be drastically bad mistakes. If you get it right first time, you'll enjoy the next 10, 20 years.
And look at your fish, Trevor.
This is the pièce de la résistance, because now it's my hobby. I mean, I've bought new fish and I've got some of the originals in there. They were underground. There was a mesh over them. You couldn't see them.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of rubbish in the pond. And I said it would be lovely to see. I've always wanted an aquarium at home. And it, you know, in a corny way, you know, when you see a movie and an aquarium separates a room, a big aquarium. Oh, that's a bit corny.
Yeah.
But this is the best compromise of all time. I'm indoors. I can see the fish because of the glass. And you put me onto someone who could build this pond. It was a great idea to have a raised pond.
And have the flat screen TV, as we referred to it at the time. I think we called this koi TV because the whole concept behind this part of the garden, which is your sort of urban counterpoint to the sort of wilder garden, the more country garden there, is, well, it was two things. First of all, we had to come up because if you remember when your builder started to do some work here, we discovered there's about a metre of concrete.
Yep.
So it was either dig all of that out at vast expense or come up. We took the option of coming up. So you've got these raised beds, the raised koi pond, and all of it relates to something in the house. So the fish TV relates to that window there.
Absolutely.
The pergola relates to your music room where you've got your records and your decks and everything, creating a vista out into the garden. But it's also, when you're in the kitchen, in the sunroom, it's another layer of privacy for you.
Every single room in my house on this side has a great shot, a different view of the garden, and I love it. And I see the fish pond from everywhere. And this, I'm so into the fish now. I know a lot more about koi than I ever did before, and it's partly because I constantly see them every day.
Well, I can honestly say, hand on heart, I'd never designed a koi pond before, and you know, this is unique in my sort of portfolio of work, and I find it quite mesmerising looking at them and mesmerising looking through the glass. Yeah. But the other thing that I find quite incredible standing here and looking back into the garden is, you know, we're in London. And there's birds singing and it's quiet and you can't see any neighbours and that's quite remarkable, really.
It's exactly opposite to how I've been living most of my life. Noisy DJ, noise, and this is so zen for me. This is perfect at this time of life for me, and it just makes me happy. It makes me happy, and in lockdown, this has been a godsend.
So do you think your relationship with your home has changed as a consequence of the garden?
100%, 100%. To be honest, the house needed a lot of work, and we've done a lot of work on the home, but the first thing I did was the garden, which is back to front for a lot of people. Most people do the interior first, and it made me love my home more. And the work inside, I think I was more patient with the work inside because I constantly had the view of the garden. The connection's way deeper than any piece of furniture or what I do on the inside. I never thought I'd say this about a garden. It's an emotional connection as well, you know. You've got living creatures out here, and like you say, the sounds everywhere. I used to wake up to pigeons cooing in Clerkenwell Old Street, cooing and irritating me wanting to get a water pistol and shoot them down with a water pistol. Now it's the dawn chorus of birds.
You can look at it and admire it from here. You can go and use it. You can connect with it, but equally you can just be sitting on that bench looking at the fish and looking at what's behind.
Absolutely,
it's a good backdrop.
And finally, there's a little. What would you call that?
Trevor's tiny house.
No, it's not my house. It was obviously
was
built
already
for
there,
a little girl who
a
daughter, I think, who one of the previous owners had. And 9 out of 10 people probably want a studio out there, or I could have put a mini gym at the end of the garden, or a den. And instead of doing that, because it's always been there, I renovated it and I just kept it for storage because I think it's pretty. And
I think it's nice that you kept it.
It's pretty raw and it's pretty practical now.
Yeah.
But it's not what I would have done 10 years ago. I would have definitely built something there.
Yeah.
All my friends who've got gardens build a man cave and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and I resisted it just because everybody came, oh, that's pretty, and I just thought, yes,
Yeah.
it's garden pretty, I'll leave it. So that's because I've fallen in love with the garden.
But you've made some really good design additions to the garden.
Yeah.
I mean, the palm tree, that's fantastic. I love the way that's on the alignment of the you know, the house and the barbecue and the pergola and the palm, and it means something to you because it reminds you of the Caribbean, and so, you know, it's got a resonance with you. So you don't have to be a kind of expert gardener to contribute. You know, you've contributed and made some great additions.
I think as I get older, I think I'll be more into the garden and gardening as I've got more time. I am a Chelsea football fan, yes.
Yes, you are.
100%.
I also know, because I've taken you around Chelsea Flower Show and you absolutely loved it.
I couldn't believe it.
Are you going this year? Obviously delayed this year, September.
My friend, listen. The experience of going there is life-changing, and increasingly I meet people who, it's amazing how many people love gardens. All I can say, if you've never been, it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I remember the Yorkshire garden.
Yep.
Well, I got some cheese.
Yes.
I'll never forget that.
From Mark, yeah.
Clearly the Japanese one's always very, very popular, I know,
Yeah.
but it's the diversity, the different gardens that really impress me. And just walking around, the vibe there is amazing. But the one thing I make sure I do is not bring my wallet. But it is a great experience. My partner, it's first thing on the calendar now. We absolutely love Chelsea. Even if we were fortunate enough to go on the pre-days. I feel I've arrived when I go to Chelsea.
I get that. I mean, I've exhibited there, but I've also been there as someone working for the RHS and also as a ticket-holding punter. And it is a very special experience to have this thing that shouldn't be there, that appears seemingly by magic, not by magic, by lots and lots of hard work.
Well, I think the one thing that I always say is, how do they do it? How do you create a garden for like a week? I feel the tension as a garden designer must be horrible. Waiting to be judged. It must be awful. It must be awful.
It's pretty intense. It's 19 days of very intense work, followed by a brief period of judging, followed by a period of reflection where you may or may not want to murder the judges. I'd speak figuratively, of course. And then, then the show opens and people arrive, and actually everything that's gone before kind of becomes not irrelevant, but it becomes just the background, because you're there just every day, people being enthusiastic about what you've created. That's brilliant. That's such good fun.
I would imagine this year will be incredibly intense, because you don't have to tell me how popular gardens are now and how people have embraced the garden because of lockdown. And I'd imagine it's an overwhelming amount of people trying to get to Chelsea or going to try and enjoy Chelsea. I think the viewing figures will be through the roof this year. Honestly, it's I've been to Wimbledon once, and that was fantastic. I've been to Lord's for cricket. I'm a big cricket fan. You know, I've been to all these sporting events. I've been to some fantastic places, but honestly, that's up there. That's up there for me. It's one of I never thought I'd say that. I'm just like, I never thought I'd say I'd love the Chelsea Flower Show, but yeah, I'm a convert. And thankfully, Joe Wiley, being my radio buddy, is always enthusiastic and always saying, you're going to Chelsea this year, that sort of thing. So she's, me and Joe, thank God Joe's there, because I'd feel alone. But loads of Radio 2 presenters and Radio 1 presenters, they love the Flower Show. So it's one of the best things the BBC do, I think. I was a bit concerned though. It's not normally in September, right? What month is it normally in?
It's May. Third week of May.
How are the plants going to survive? How are they going to flourish in September? What do you do?
Well, I think it's going to be a very interesting and very different set of challenges for the designers, but in particular for the growers, because when you're growing for Chelsea in May, you're trying to bring stuff slightly forward, not massively. So you're trying to make sure that you're trying to either hold some plants back slightly so that they're not flowering, or you're trying to bring some forward slightly by using, maybe polytunnels or whatever to get. And it's very, it's sort of plus or minus a couple of weeks. It's not massive manipulation. You can't do too much. But of course, September, we're going to be at the end of the season.
Exactly.
In a strange way, it might almost be a little bit easier, because September time there'll be a lot of plants in flower that will have never been seen at Chelsea before, because it's just impossible to make them work. So a different set of challenges, but in a way, I think quite an exciting, quite a positive set of challenges. And one thing you can be absolutely certain of is that the designers and the nursery people, they'll all rise to the challenge, because it's it's something that it gets into your bones and into your skin, Chelsea, and you cannot shake it, and you want to do your best.
I'm definitely going to be there.
Yeah. Today.
I've got connections, as you know.
You've got connections. That sounds very, hello. I was going to say it sounds a bit underworlding, but
Me
no.
plus one.
Yeah, plus one.
Thank you very much, mate.
Got it.
Thank you.